Time to celebrate. We got our guy. Fine. Whether he's going to end up being our guy or not, we're going to see. But for right now, stay with me. All right, that's enough. Anyway, Paul George to the Sixers. Got to be the best big three that we've had in the time that I've been a fan. I'm very well aware of the Simmons, Embiid, and Tobias. I'm missing somebody. Redick, if you want to count them.
Yeah.
That roster was crazy. But the difference was Joel Embiid wasn't Joel Embiid yet at that point. He was great, but he was still kind of, ascending. Tyrese Maxey right now, I would say, is better than Jimmy Butler was at that point. Definitely better than Ben Simmons was at that point. So then really the comparison comes down to, is Paul George better than Tobias Harris? And unequivocally, Paul George is better than Tobias Harris in nearly every metric.
Yeah, when Tobias got his deal today, the Twitter posts weren't lacking. I'll just say that much.
But yeah, because we'll get into him in a second. I want to focus on the fact that
I don't want to start with that. We'll wait.
Because you look around the league, and yeah, the Knicks made some great moves, but they had to give up the future to make that happen. And I'm not saying. Look, the Sixers getting Paul George for nothing but cap space, no assets out the door, no picks. The Clippers didn't end up signing him, so they didn't do the sign and trade, which I think would have been a deal breaker. I've been his biggest critic, and we'll see how this works out. But Daryl Morey said, give us this year, next offseason, we're going to go star hunting. We're going to get a guy that fits this team. And Paul George fits. He's just a perfect fit for this team. He's not the guy he used to be, but he's a perfect – well, actually, this is a good first question. If you're looking at the Sixers right now, is Paul George your 1, your 2, or your third option? There's one clear one you can X off, but 2 or 3 is a fun question.
2 or 3 is a fun question, but I think he's the third option, which is, no fault of his own. Tyrese Maxey is just coming into his own in the league, and I think having a third option that's Paul George is going to be fantastic. Obviously, he's getting up there in age at 35, but still. Yeah. You don't have to rely on him to do everything every night. He can still be effective.
He's just got to be, significantly better than Tobias Harris. And I think, in his sleep he is. Because they're going to play the same role. I think, the offense are going to run through Joel. Maxey's going to be able to be prolific with the ball. He's going to be able to stretch the floor, put pressure on defenses in the paint. And then if that's not there that night, he's proven he can be a 40+% three-point shooter. So he's going to be tough to stop. All Paul's got to do, really, catch and shoot, a little bit of the mid-range, and pick up the slack. The biggest thing that Tobias never did, in my opinion, aside from never taking a charge.
0. The one was overturned, too. I saw that today.
The only one he ever had.
It was overturned.
But he was just never able on nights where, Maxey might have been cold or Embiid could have been hurt or didn't have it. He was never able to step up and be a star. He was a role player at best and a 0 at worst. I think with PG, if Maxey's off one night or Embiid's taking a night off, he can still lead the charge if he needs to, right?
Yeah. As long as we don't ask him to do it every single night, which in the Sixers team, we don't have to, so.
No.
In LA, they had to because Kawhi was load management and, before they got Harden. So,
yeah, he was tasked with an extra workload. We're going to keep this on. Next week, I do want to get into there we go. Next week, I do want to get into some of the concerns I have with Paul George. But for this week, I kind of just want to enjoy the ride while we're on it. You brought up Tobias Harris and his contract. What's going on in Detroit, man? What are we thinking here?
They need anything. They need spacing. It's all for the spacing. So
$26 million?
Yeah,
Bro,
I
did you
mean,
see the deal Clay got? Not to say he would have gone to Detroit. I'm not saying Clay would have gone. But they're worth the same?
it's tough. I don't know. I can't really wrap my mind around it, but they probably had to hit the cap floor and might as well get someone with, I guess some upside that fits along Cade Cunningham. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, on the bright side for Detroit, it's a 2-year deal, so he can be maybe a veteran mentor to Cade, and then you jettison him when you're ready to start winning again.
Or just send him off and expiring at the trade deadline next year. Like, it's not that bad. Like,
No, I mean, just the $26 million a year is, I mean, it's a lot for the services of Tobias Harris, especially kind of what he turned into.
yeah, it's just Detroit's not the team that I would focus on. It's the Clippers themselves. It's more so a what are you kind of doing deal.
Organizational mismanagement.
So they gave Kawhi the 4th year. They didn't want to give Paul George the 4th year. But again, they own no future picks. The Thunder and the Sixers have them all.
Yeah.
In that Paul George trade and then the Harden trade. They're all out.
Not to mention, they're getting progressively worse.
Kawhi and James Harden are not getting any younger, and they're building a new stadium.
I could be mistaken. I think it's ready for next season because their lease expired at Crypto.
Then it's ready because they were offering seats on the fan wall. Yeah, it's this season, I believe.
Yeah, it's ready to go.
It's not what you want to do, and we'll see how that pans out for them. But like, ooh,
yeah, it's great for. Look, I mean, I think I tweeted something about it. I don't know if it was on this account, my personal, but the way that Daryl has kind of manipulated the Clippers over the last 2 years feels a lot like Howie Roseman in New Orleans. Like, stop picking up the phone. I mean, if you think about dumping James Harden off on them, Harden was never going to play for the Sixers. Made that abundantly clear. So you dump Harden, you get these picks back that are getting progressively more valuable as the Clippers get worse, and you get Nico Batum was a great rental last year. I thought he fit in well. Covington never really turned into too much, unfortunately, but for what we got for James Harden, I thought we did well. And then this year, again, you go back, Clippers could have moved Paul George at any point. He was even open to a sign and trade, allegedly. They were not, under any circumstances, going to give him that 4th year. So you lose him for nothing.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of ridiculous how you lose him for nothing. I mean, the alleged Golden State offer was all right. wasn't bad, not anything to super right.
Yeah, there was firsts involved.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it wasn't a game changer, but there were firsts involved for a team that's desperate for firsts.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, I don't know what they're doing over there, but their losses are a gain at this point. And same with the Thunder. You go look back at that Paul George trade, the original one.
One of the worst ever.
It's not aging well.
No.
Not aging well.
But he's here now, and the Sixers are going to build around their new big three. And part of that building is bringing somebody back who, I know Joel had mentioned in the offseason that he wanted to see some more continuity this year. The fans overwhelmingly wanted this guy back. So Kelly Oubre comes back on what I think is an extremely team-friendly deal, given how well he played last year and kind of what guys are getting. So he's back on a 2-year deal, just slightly north of, I believe, $16 million. I believe he has a player option for the 2nd year.
Yep.
So maybe he gets a bailout that way. But still, great deal by Morey, very team-friendly. I thought we were going to have to pay 10 to 12 to keep him around, but I would have done it. But 2 years, 16 's sensational.
Love that.
And he's probably going to be your starting 2-guard the way it sits right now. I mean, Jared McCain's not going to be ready. The best version of this team is not Eric Gordon starting at the 2. And Oubre kind of showed last year he can be a really valuable slasher. He can get hot when he needs to. He was an underrated defender. If you watch Sixer games, Oubre was a problem for passing lanes, and he had a lot of points off turnovers. So getting him back for less than $10 million a year, kudos to Daryl Morey.
Yeah, it was an absolutely great signing. I mean, $8 million a year. You see a lot of these guys are getting a lot more, and Oubre showed on the court that he's valuable to this team. And I saw a tweet that his signing was a little instrumental in Paul George.
Yeah.
So, Kelly's the man, even though the city of Philadelphia hit him with a car.
He still loves it anyway.
He's the man. And I'm happy to have him back at least for 1 year. If he opts in or opts out of the player option, if he does good, I'll still want to bring him back. But if he's out there chasing a bag in free agency and some team wants to pay him a ton of money, good for him. He's earned it, and he's played extremely well at the Sixers. So,
yeah, I'm stoked to have him back. And there's another guy coming back who was not a Sixer last year, but he was
so happy about this one. I'm so happy.
He was a Sixer before. Nobody wanted to lose him then, but you knew there was going to be casualties when we went out and got James Harden. Unfortunately, Andre Drummond was one of them, along with Seth Curry. And it feels like we've been trying to get him back ever since. That off season after he elected to leave Brooklyn, we were in the mix, but Chicago decided to pay him. Deserved. Good job. Then the trade deadline, we were hot on his tail and elected to go the Buddy Hield route, which, again, I don't disagree with. But finally, we get Drummond back, one of the best rebounders in basketball. Why were you so excited?
I mean, we didn't have to pay 3 seconds for him first off.
True.
That was the rumor. And he, 10 to 15 minutes a night, high energy guy. He'll get a ton of boards. Like, he's perfect as an Embiid backup.
Yeah. I mean, that season he played, Embiid had a pretty decent injury. If I remember, Drummond was averaging a double-double in Embiid's absence.
He was I played him in DraftKings and all those daily sites when Embiid's out. It's so funny. He just puts up 70 DraftKings points a night when Embiid was out. He's the best permanent guy getting boards and points and double-doubles. He just racks up all the stats, and it's great to have him back on such a team-friendly contract. Only $5 million a year, and I don't think this one has 10. A player option either.
No, it's 2 years, 10.
That's awesome.
And it feels like he's been around so long, but he's going to turn 31 this season.
There's no way.
He's still a young guy.
I mean, it feels like he came into the league 15 years ago at this point.
Yeah. Those Piston years seem so long ago, and yet he's still this side of 30 for a little while. But yeah, monster get. You feel for Paul Reed a little bit because it does spell the end of the B-ball Paul era in Philly. And he got a lot better from the kid from DePaul. I believe he was a second rounder. He might have even been undrafted free agent. I don't recall. G League superstar, made the NBA, cracked the rotation, got some playoff minutes last year, but he never really turned into what we were hoping. He hit a ceiling talent-wise. The athleticism's there, the effort's even there, but there's a talent ceiling.
Yeah, and I wonder if he's going to get floated in trade talks or we're just going to outright waive him. I know it's non-guaranteed money for this year, so we'll see what happens there. But,
if we trade him, we're able to – I don't know how the cap works. You're probably better at this than I am, even though you're more –
I'm an NFL cap guy. I was looking at the numbers, though. I was looking at the numbers. It's more if we trade him.
Yes, if we waive him outright, it's $8 million in cap. We can trade him for somebody who makes up to $15 million per season.
I mean, Dorian Finney-Smith was the name that was floated out. He makes 14.9.
Who cares? Get him in under the tax.
He could play at the 4 as well. So good defense. I mean, yeah. I'm here for that. I mean, as long as we don't send him. Didn't he tweet out, "I don't want to go to Utah"?
Probably. I mean, Utah tried to sign him the first time, and
did he tweet out that I don't want to go to Utah? Am I just imagining this?
It wasn't in the moment. After we signed him, he said something.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully it's not Utah again. I don't know who else would necessarily be interested. I mean, ironically enough, the Knicks after just losing Hartenstein could use some depth at the position.
You mean the New York
Uh,
Wildcats?
Yeah. I mean, that'd be another PA school, Duquesne. Right? Yeah. Duquesne. Yeah, anyway, so Drummond's back. Great news. Probably the best backup center Embiid's ever had is back in the fold.
Yeah.
But a couple guys were on the team this year who will not be returning, unfortunately. Led off by one of my favorite Sixers this season, Nico Boom Boom Batum. Just the man, consummate pro, one of the best passers Embiid's ever played with. And then, how can anybody ever forget the Batum game? The play-in, Miami, everything's falling apart, and Nico just goes on an absolute heater.
The memes. Fourth quarter, that's why Batum's in. I'll remember that moment forever.
Yeah, the Batum game is up there with the Shake Milton game.
The Shake Milton game. I remember that one too.
Yeah, he went
good
for
times
against the Clippers. Batum will not be coming back. He is re-signing with the Clippers again. He never really wanted to leave to begin with. He was just kind of being a pro about it and came and, to his credit, gave the Sixers a great season. Never heard him complain. Great locker room guy. He did everything he was supposed to do, but he never made any qualms about it. He wanted to be in LA the whole time. So he got his chance and he went back. So I can't fault him for it. No.
Can't blame him. If you like LA, you like LA, and they're willing to pay him some money. So.
Well, that was the thing. That's kind of how. I mean, not the. Yeah, I'm genius.
You like the location. I mean,
and that's what it was, because you saw the contract he got. It was 2 years, $9 million. I mean, I have no doubt Darren would have found the money if there was any interest in him staying in Philly. Because that's not a resort. I mean, that's just slightly above the vet minimum we're going to give somebody who is unproven. So I think he just wanted to go back west no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, we had another one go out west. We had DeAnthony Melton, who's signed a 1-year deal with the Warriors. So,
yeah,
sometimes just like the California coast, and it's nice out there. I can't blame anyone.
Dude, we were never. I mean, I love DeAnthony Melton. I think he's a good, great locker room guy. Plays really good defense. He and Tyrese were ranked. All good things to say about the guy. $13 million a year. I'm going to pass on that one. Coming off of a back injury that never really did heal itself.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy that they gave him just a touch under what Clay got with Dallas.
Yeah, you're right. He what was Clay? 3 years, 50?
Yeah, a little over 15, 16. But anyway. I keep going away from the Sixers talk here. I mean, I know we said some farewells. We're likely going to say more farewells, like you said, with B-Ball, Paul.
But we figure Paul's going to go. Doesn't look like, unless they get him back on the min. Campaign probably won't be back. Monetarily, I think we're just about certain that Buddy won't be back.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we still have an exception left, but I think that Buddy's looking to get $16 million in free agency, and even if we were to move Paul with our mid-level, with our exception, I think we still only have $9 million in cap. So I just don't see a way in which we get Buddy back. But nevertheless, his counterpart at the guard position got paid, deserves it. But Tyrese Maxey, a year later. He was pretty cool about it. He delayed his max deal until this offseason so that we could go out and get somebody like Paul George, something that most athletes wouldn't do, and for sure most Rich Paul clients would not do. I know that he did not encourage that, but love that he did it, love that he's loyal, and he got rewarded to the tune of 5 years, north of $205 million, fully guaranteed. No player option, no team option.
NBA money's crazy, man. It's ridiculous.
I would argue it's crazier than baseball money, because the shortness of it. Like 5 years, $200 million.
I mean, Tatum's getting the same as Harper got over 13 and 5. So
you're right. The Tatum deal, I forgot about that. 5 years, north of $300 million.
That's how much Harper got for 13 years. So
yeah, there's an MVP in there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely crazy.
Maybe
stuff.
A second.
But Tyrese Maxey is worth every cent of this contract. It seems like he's only getting better and better and better each year. And we saw it in the playoffs. He's got the ice, and you never know when this team's going to need that. So I'm a big fan of Tyrese Maxey. I'm gonna have to get some gear now because I knew he was going to stay, but you just gotta be sure about it.
Oh, dude, I agree. I don't get gear until they sign the first extension because, especially coming up during the process of the Sixers fan, I got a TJ McConnell jersey like an idiot.
That must have been nice though, wearing it the day after his triple double. That must have been nice.
Yeah, I mean, I had some good times with it.
It had some good times. Good memories.
It did. But I'm still not used to my favorite players getting ripped away from me. I'm not used to this continuity we're starting to see with the team.
Love continuity. It's like,
me too.
After all those years of, this guy's in, this guy's out, this guy's in.
Yeah.
Some of those process teams were something.
Those process teams would have signed somebody like the guy that we're going to wrap up our free agency countdown with. And Daryl has had a sensational offseason. He has righted a lot of wrongs. He's done a lot of things he hasn't done previously. But Daryl is always going to Daryl. There was a washed-up Rocket out there for the vet minimum, and by God, he went out there and got him. So Eric Gordon coming to the Sixers on a vet min. My assumption is that he's going to come in to try and ease some of the sting of losing Hield. I don't think you can apples to apples, those two. I mean, They're going to have to replace Hield in the aggregate, but he can still shoot it a little bit. He can be a backup ball handler if you need him to. He can be a spark off the bench. I don't mind him a minimum.
It's the min. If it was anything more than min, maybe I'd be like, okay, Daryl, all right. But it's the min. If someone else outshines him in the rotation, maybe McCain as he's coming up, he could start taking his minutes as the season progresses. So I'm okay with it. You can't really go wrong with a vet minimum unless you play these guys heavy minutes.
It's going to be most of the roster there, bud.
Yeah, but like not the key parts of it. I understand it's going to be a lot of the roster, but it's
most of the bench is going to be the vet min.
Yeah, but hey, we got Paul George though.
We were just talking about that's almost how the NBA is going to have to operate. Like if you're going to keep paying your big three $30 million a piece, it's going to be the starting five on legitimate contracts and the entire bench on rookie deals and vet ends.
Look at Boston. They just handed out the big Derek White deal. They're going to make $1 billion over all their contracts. And the owner says he's going to sell a majority stake in the team after he's like way over the apron. So
but they have to have a buyer lineup. Like there's no way you take on that kind of debt and don't have a buyer lineup.
Yeah, you're definitely right, but it's crazy what the NBA is looking at. But honestly, the Sixers are in that top tier with the Knicks and the Celtics after these moves, especially if they could fill out the bench adequately enough.
So, I think we leapfrog Milwaukee.
I think Milwaukee is trailing behind. They have some free agents that they have to attend to, which I don't know if they're going to or not. Brooke Lopez is out there. I think Bobby Portis is another year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he got a pretty good extension after the title.
Yeah, so they're going to start depleting their core a little bit. Giannis might get a little antsy. We'll see about that, but I think they're firmly in tier 2 behind.
Yeah, it's them. It's Indiana.
Orlando could be a little sneaky.
Orlando, we talked for 24 minutes in the sector, so I feel pretty good about it. I'm very surprised at the way Orlando's operated this offseason. I mean, you got young guys on rookie deals playing all-star basketball. This is when you push your chips because you're not paying these guys right now. I'm stunned that they haven't been in on any of these major free agents. Klay Thompson specifically, I really thought they were going to give him a ludicrous offer just to try and move the needle. They were in on Paul George. The Sixers won that just because I think he wants to compete right away.
Him and Embiid at the ESPN table kind of sealed that
too,
from Orlando. That sealed it away from them.
But I don't know. I really thought there was going to be a more aggressive free agency from Orlando.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that's tough where, you're not known as an attractive freedom destination.
No.
Paulo's fantastic, Franz is fantastic, but you don't have someone like Embiid. You're not on the West Coast in California. You're not playing in Los Angeles. Like, it's tough for these, you know,
Small market.
small
They're a
market. Yeah,
small
small market.
market.
That's the word I'm looking for. I mean, you have to get lucky and strike a Giannis, honestly, and have people want to go play with them. I mean, Paulo could become that. There's definitely a chance. He's been incredible thus far in his career, but that's like their only outcome to being super competitive. They have one
Yeah,
out.
I mean, I definitely agree. I do agree with the that tier one where you're not going to get Paul George, you're not going to get Donovan Mitchell, like you're not going to get those kind of guys. But I am a little surprised that they didn't kind of look at that tier two difference maker. Like I mentioned, Clay, Brandon Ingram is to be had. I'm trying to think who else. DeJounte Murray at one like was available to be had. Like there were some guys who might not have been free agents, but were on the market tradable. They could have made a big push. Granted, OG got cash for New York, but they could have
Yeah,
made a
he's
big
never going
push
to
for
leave.
OG.
I don't think he's ever going to leave.
No, Mikal Bridges was another one. You have the assets to make. I'm a little bit surprised at how little we haven't heard anything out of Orlando. Lauri Markkanen. I mean, they're not. To my knowledge, they're not in on Markkanen.
No, not that I've heard, but I mean, you see the contract they gave Contavious Caldwell-Pope. Like it tells you where the league values him compared to Klay Thompson. So
Yeah, I forgot they got KCP. So, I mean, that's a small move.
I think it was 22 a year.
Yeah, which I'm kind of glad the Sixers didn't go in on. I think that's a little bit. I think you can create KCP for less. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, he does bring valuable title experience to a young roster. So, I mean, I don't think it's a bad signing. It's not my favorite. My favorite's probably Kelly Oubre, if I'm being completely honest. Out of
Yeah, I'm so
everything,
stoked he's back, dude. I was emotionally prepared to have to lose him.
if you get paid an all right salary, like you're not bringing down the team, like you're getting paid what you're worth, which I think, like you said, Oubre is worth more. So we might have taken a little pay cut there to stay in Philadelphia. If you do that and you play good and you show heart and you show effort and you go out and go through what he did in his first season, like I said, he literally got hit by a car.
Yeah, and he decided to run it back.
He decided to come back. Like there's something there.
Yeah, I think he likes it here. I do.
I think he does too.
He's a competitive guy. You see it on the floor, and you think of what his path was. Dude, Washington sucks. Charlotte sucks. Like he'd never been on a winner, so and maybe that's why he had that reputation that he had about being kind of immature or whatever. But I'll tell you what, when he came to the Sixers and he bought in immediately and was one of their, I would argue, one of their like biggest hustle guys. Like, the dude played hard for all 82.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Well, except for the part where we got hit by a car and had to miss time.
Yeah. That's not his fault though. That's not his fault.
No. That's okay.
He would have played hard in those games that he played them. So
exactly. But the long and the short of it is, all these other moves are small potatoes if Paul George does not come to the Sixers, which, if you're just checking in, he did. Paul George, 4-year deal, max money. Sixers were willing to offer what the Clippers weren't, and they have a new big three. We'll see what that means.
We will see what that means. I mean, the 4th year was the selling point. The Clippers were never, ever going to give him that 4th year. And Philly, from the jump, was like, yeah, we're going to offer him that 4th year. We're going to give him the max. And hopefully he'll come to Philadelphia. And here we are.
Yeah, all that matters is they win a title. It doesn't look, this team, I got news for you. Everybody was like, oh, man, but how bad is this deal going to look in 2028? Look, the Sixers are going to be X in 2028. All right, let's just all get comfortable with that reality. I mean, that'll be the end of the Embiid deal. He'll be in his mid to early 30s at that point, which, he'll be on the back end of the prime. Paul George is going to be 38 at that point. Like, 2028 is going to suck no matter what. But hey, look, if they win it in 2024, 5, or 6, who the hell cares? This team hasn't won a title since the 80s. I don't care what 2028 looks like. Bring me one now.
You remind me that we might have a dark time in Philly sports coming up because all that
Yeah,
void money from Howie might hit. They're going to be, older on big deals on the Sixers, and baseball. We'll see how that pans out. But they've been handing out some large deals in Philadelphia on the baseball side as well.
Dude, 2028 through 2030, you and I are going to be on this podcast just pulling our hair out on all kinds of antidepressants. But
so it's going to be must watch podcasting then, because we're just going to be going through it. We're going to be like, 12-game losing streak up.
exactly,
I believe in these teams to rebuild though. Sixers.
me too.
Sixers, I like what's happened in the Phillies farm. I like the Eagles draft picks. So, like,
Yeah,
we'll see.
Sixers will be fine. And like I said, I don't care. Win one title, and we're good until 2040.
Yeah, I agree. But speaking of titles, it's coming up soon, the trade deadline. I'm excited to talk trade deadline with you. Phillies are going to be aggressive, I know. But
yeah, absolutely. Well, what's it called? Basketball is going to chill out a ton. Usually it's like a monsoon early, and then it stops.
It'll be like a week.
Yeah. But by the time we do next cast, we'll have a pretty good sense of what the deadline will look like for the Phillies. And we'll dedicate that half hour to the Phillies and Dave Dombrowski's moves. We did Daryl's tonight. Howie had his turn in the winter, and we'll see next week what Dave is up his sleeve.
He hasn't made that patented trade yet, where he depletes the farm system a little.
And you know what? We'll get into it next week, and we'll tease that for next week. I don't think he will. I don't think he will. I think Ryan thinks he does. Check in next week to see who makes the most sense. I'm Brandon. That's Ryan. It's the Pats Report. See you.